Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Radical Edge of HR with HR Knowledge Source. I am your host, Tanya Hawley, Marketing Manager with HRKS, and very happy to be your host again today. This is our special edition for Black History Month. We've actually been doing this annually for a few years. But of course, this time we got a little radicalness to it as we try to do. And of course, it's Black History Month. Tokenism or tradition? Which one are you? Do you know which one you are? Do you know how to tell which one you are? We're about to discuss that. So let me bring in the expert, my friend and colleague, Miss Ama Hooks. Hello, Ama.
Hey Tanya, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you once again for coming. You doing all right?
Absolutely. Yes, super excited to be here with you.
And of course, I'm always excited to have you back. We always have a good time.
We do.
Could you go ahead and officially introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about what you do at HRKS?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Ama A. Hooks, pronoun she, her, and I am a senior consultant with HRKS, but was also recently promoted to the DICE practice lead. And
Mm.
so I am spearheading the diversity, inclusion, culture, and equity section or center of excellence for HRKS. And for those of you who know me, DEI is my passion. So super excited to have this role.
Wonderful and perfect for today's topic too.
Right.
And I have to say, I like that dice thing. This
Right.
kind of
Nice.
original, that dice. Um,
Mhm.
Trademark, y'all can't use it. I'm just saying.
Yep.
Anyway, so let's go ahead and dive in. As I said, today's topic is Black History Month, tokenism, or tradition. So, first of all, let's talk about that title. What does that title mean?
So the title is, for organizations when you are celebrating Black History Month, is it just some token initiative that you're doing to appease people, or is it steeped in the richness of tradition and of intentionality? And so that is what we're going to discuss today. Whatever you're doing at your organizations, thank you for doing something, but let's peel back the layers to see, is it just a token type of event,
Mm,
or is it steeped in rich tradition?
mm, sounds interesting. Okay, get down to the nitty gritty. All right. So, just to kick off, the first question I have for you is, what are the sentiments to you or for you about celebrating Black History Month? What does it mean to you?
So for me, Black History Month is a special tribute. It's a special tribute to the works of African Americans here in America. And I want to say this, this quote, because this is a time of acknowledgement, of reflection. It
Mhm.
should be a time of inspiration. But Dr. G. Woodson, who is the father of Black history, says it best. And he says, let us think of Black History Month as the way our nation honors its greatest moments and greatest people. Let us appreciate Black History Month in a similar way as when our government sets aside a month or a day, thereby giving it a special meaning for all Americans. And so it's a tribute. It's that moment that we fought hard for, because initially
Mhm.
there was no Black History Month, and it was Black History Week, and then it became a month. So, it's our moment of recognizing our what we've attributed.
Very good. Beautiful quote. Thank you for sharing that. So, what is the litmus test for token or tradition? Because I know people are wondering, I don't know, how can I tell? They may not even, probably never thought of this, but we're the radical edge, so we're going there. So, what would the litmus test? I can't say that word, Alma. What would the litmus test be?
Got it. So that's a really good question. I think it really starts with, what are your goals
Mhm.
for the Black History Month activities that you're putting
Mhm.
on? Like, what am I trying to accomplish with this? How do your activities differ than they did 5 years ago or pre George Floyd? Like, as we know, a lot more awareness has come about. So, what are you doing that's different? because we know a lot more of our history now than we maybe did 5 years ago. The importance of it, the fight over it, like all
Mhm.
of those things have heightened. So, whatever doesn't grow shall perish. So, are your are your Black History activities, are your attributes, are your acknowledgments growing? And
Mm.
then who's helping with the decision making, right? Like, do you have a committee that's helping? Is it a group of people? Is it all leaders, or is it just one or two people? Are
Mm.
there diverse ideas being thrown around? Are there diverse people, ethnically, culturally, that are all in this conversation? Or are we just expecting, the one Black person to say something and
Mm.
then we do it? So I would say those are a couple questions you can ask yourself, but it really needs to be anchored in what am I trying to accomplish? What's our
Mhm.
goal?
Understood. Okay. That's good. You know what came to mind when you were saying those things is that quote that we always hear, the speed of the leader is the speed of the game. So whatever that leader at that company is doing or saying to celebrate or recognize will trickle down. That's what came to mind when you were saying that. If they do
Absolutely.
nothing, if they don't care, it's going to be a reflection. The company is going to be a reflection of that. So that's really what came to mind when you said that
You
in
are
a different,
absolutely right.
yeah. All right. So the next question is, should homogeneous companies celebrate Black History Month? And what does that mean? In case some people are wondering what that
So
term means.
homogeneous companies are companies that lack diversity. So in layman's terms, because we're friends, Tanya, right? This is the radical edge. This is a company that's just full of white people and don't have a lot of Black people or a lot of other ethnically diverse people. And that's what we're focusing on right now. Because as we know, diversity, there's a range of diversity. There's acquired diversity. There's innate or inherent diversity. Like we know those things, but
Mm.
right now we're talking about ethnically and culturally diverse.
And Black History Month. So, you know,
Right.
yeah. So, yes, in layman's terms, and there's a lot of companies still out there like this.
Mhm.
And it seems to me like those are the companies that really should celebrate it because they have more to learn in
Absolutely.
some circumstances. I think that's a safe statement to say.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tanya. And I also think you're going to have companies or people or leaders in those companies to look at themselves and be like, oh, no, we have diversity. And so then I would take the question a little further. Where is your diversity? Is it
That
in
was.
your corporate headquarters? Right? Or is
Mhm,
it
mhm,
only in the field? Is it only out,
mhm.
in working in other areas? Because a lot of times you don't have as much diversity in the corporate headquarters as you do in those regional or district locations.
AKA the decision makers.
Absolutely.
And the decision makers are the ones who would decide on activities, on how you celebrate and what you recognize. So if the
Decide that
diversity,
budget. Don't forget that budget.
ooh, yes, is a big one. That's where the money is.
Right.
So if you don't have diversity at the top in that area, then it's I can say previous employment. I won't say the name of the company, but the place I used to work years ago. I was to get my foot in the door. I was in the call center. Well, the call center, um, there wasn't a lot of diversity the other way in the call center. so so when I got out of was promoted out of there, um, I start seeing more of other people than the minorities that were in the call center. Of course, the higher up you go, the less diversity I was seeing. I mean, that's a good example of that. So they're not necessarily in the decision making areas, but they're there. But if they can't make decisions or have an impact, it challenges this whole thing. Which
Absolutely.
also makes you ask that question: token or tradition? Just saying. Okay. So the next question is, how can companies review their practices to know if it's token or tradition? Kind of fell right into that.
Yeah. So going back to the let's first look at what we're trying to accomplish, right? So
Mm-hmm.
once we know what the goal is, then we can create experiences around it. And why
Okay.
I'm intentionally saying experiences and not activities, because activities feel transactional and like a check the box. Experiences feel transformational. What do you want them to walk away with being better and better steeped in cultural proficiency from this experience? I think if you look at it from that lens, whether it's a performance or everyone go see Alvin Ailey, or if it's something immersive, right? Like going to the Human Civil Rights Museum, or it could be just a conversation, like whatever those activities are and however often they happen, what is the goal? And hopefully, it's to provide more cultural competencies for those who don't have the lived experiences of being Black.
Wow, that was so eloquently put. Thank you, Anna. It was.
Listen, don't get me going,
No,
Tanya.
I love it. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, it explained it so very well. I love that. Thank you for that. And if you all aren't getting this or you have questions, please put them in the chat comment section. I'll be happy to ask Ama, but also we'll give you our information afterwards where you can always hit us up. Hit us up, meaning HR knowledge source. All right. How do employers handle responses like this is exclusion because there is no White History Month? That's a good question. I have to say so.
I'm gonna take a moment of silence for this
Yeah.
one.
And I've
Um,
heard that out there, you know.
Absolutely.
You
I
know.
have too. Even when we talk about just DEI and the focus on
Mhm.
race and culture, you often hear about that. Like, well,
Yeah.
why aren't we talking about other forms of diversity, you know? And so, what I will say is when we talk about history, the white is implied. So if
Mm.
you think about the different history lessons we received in civics, even if we think about the French American War or the Mexican American War or just even the Civil War, when you're reading your history books, it's rarely highlighting people of color. It's rarely highlighting
Mhm.
specifically Black people. So
Mhm.
when you look at Roman history and ancient history, like we're talking and learning about the history of European American people, AKA white folks. And
Mhm.
so when they say that, again, I would say all of the history we learn, it's already implied that it's white history. Unfortunately, it's not implied that it's Black history. And it's not also implied to acknowledge the work and our contribution specifically to this country. And that's, I'm going to only talk about this country and not get on the slippery
Understood.
slope of others. But
Understood.
with this country, there would be no America without the contribution of Black people. So American history is
Mm.
Black history, but it's not framed in that way. So we got to carve out a month for to just acknowledge us. That's what I would say to that person who says there's no
Yes.
white history.
Okay. And all you got to do is look at the history books in the schools. Remember going to school, and I didn't have a Black history class or anything until I got into college. And it was not even my first year of college, it was like my second or third. And I chose that class. I didn't have it through my
Wow.
whole academic life up until then. And so it's not there. I mean, white history is given, period. It's there because that's all that's there. So I don't know that you would need a White History Month when it's something that's already always there.
Exactly. And to take it a little further, like when you say you had to choose your Black history
Hmm.
class, I what I love about social media is that you get to follow people that really invest and dedicate their lives to this. So now you're learning history and people and
Mm.
contributions that you had never heard of. And I just remember when I was in school, yeah, they glazed over Black history, but it was always the same people. Like we
Oh
always
yeah,
heard
yeah.
about the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's and the
That's
Harriet
true.
Tubmans, depending on the school,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just like our history is so much greater than that,
Mm-hmm.
so much more than that,
That's a good point.
where you can expand the knowledge of just learning how something as simple as the super soaker gun that most kids love to play with was made by a Black man that went to Tuskegee University, by the way. So
Putting that in there,
I'll put
understand.
that in there. Proud alone. So it's those moments to know, like, yes, the light, things that we use, that
Yes.
those are also Black contributions, not just
Right.
the
Right.
manual labor of breaking their backs in the field.
Great points. Great points. Yes. All right. Let's keep it moving. So, what can companies do to make Black History Month a more transformational experience? You touched on this a little bit earlier. So, is there anything else you want to add to that question?
Yes, start the conversation early. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when we rush to do things, that's when we expose ourselves to bias the most often. We all have bias, but when we do things in a rush capacity, typically the amygdala takes over and the frontal cortex now just says, I'm going to chill out. And it's not making the rational decisions. The amygdala is making all of the bias, quick, irrational, templated decisions. I call it like the shortcut, the Cliff Notes version of doing things. So we need time to plan.
Mm.
Got to plan. We have to be intentional about the planning.
Intentional is the word. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So months in advance. What are we going to do? What are we trying to accomplish here? What are some of the events? So that's the framework. You have the goal. Now, what are some of the events we can use to accomplish that goal? And
Mhm.
who? Now, the who is just SMART goals. Who are we going to involve to make this happen? And your committee should look like the communities you serve.
Mm.
So, because Black history isn't only important and shouldn't only be important to Black people, so
Yeah.
it needs to include an array of diverse dimensions, all trying to accomplish one goal. And that within itself is really, really powerful. So some examples could be, okay, we're going to go see a performance together. Awesome. Okay, we are going to utilize a day to learn about current history that we're living, right? That is
Mhm.
Black. We're going to utilize a day to learn more about maybe the structural racism that Black people experience and ways to overcome that, like learning more about the structure
Mhm.
of racism and how people have overcome it, and also celebrating our brilliance. I think those three things mixed with smart goaling, knowing what the goal is, having a diverse committee of people giving ideas, I think that can make it more of a transformational experience, thus being tradition over tokenism.
Love it. Great. And one thing that came to mind, even before when you were speaking, when you were in school, and now, is that Google is wonderful
Oh,
coming up
Uncle
with
Google.
ideas and things to do and that kind of thing. If you when all else fails or you can't think of anything, Google it or call us.
That
Either
part.
way, that
Call us first.
call us
Google
first.
HRKS, then call that number.
There you go. Shameless plug that I usually save to the end. We're almost at the end actually. So but that is what came to mind. But if you have, you can always, there's no excuse is my point. And when I'll speak for myself in school, Google social media was not an option. We didn't
Mm-mm.
have those kind of things back then. You had to go to the library or, you know, get a book, read. We didn't have the luxury of going to the computer and just looking some things up, which is awesome that you. So there's no excuse, is
No.
as I said. So if you need some information, were you going to say something,
Yeah,
Ali?
you just made me think about like being performative, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're performative, it falls into like that tokenism type of activity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it made me think of one time I was in school and it was the first day of Black History Month, and my Caucasian teacher decided to wear like African shirt. Um,
Oh,
and it was like a
okay.
kente cloth shirt, and that was him celebrating
Interesting.
Black History Month, right? And back then it was like, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to do-ish, right? Maybe. You're trying. Like that's what I get the intentions and that's sweet. But to your point, Tanya, like we're in the day and age of information. And so we're not doing that anymore.
No, we're not.
Right?
That
Like
probably would be more offensive right now
correct.
than back then.
Correct.
It would people be like, "Oh, that's what you're gonna do?" So yeah,
Correct. And
yeah,
so that's why it's so important. Again, like we said earlier, like look at what you've done over the past. Because you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, like times have changed. So maybe some of the things you're doing that you have done are considered offensive. You have to recalibrate.
correct. Ineffective.
Oh, that part. Oh, that word. I love that word.
Yeah, totally ineffective. Would
Ineffective.
defeat the whole purpose, even though your intentions may be well in your heart. You think it's okay, or you think it's a good thing or a decent thing to do, but totally ineffective and totally giving the wrong message.
Oh,
Um,
and that's why you should do a survey. So after Black History
mhm.
celebrations, all of that stuff, survey your people to see how effective your efforts were. Let it be anonymous so you can get the real, uncut, raw feedback. And then, based on what the feedback is, continue the things they love, reassess, recalibrate the things they don't. And that's how you show the continuous improvement and you show that it's important to you.
Wonderful. Always getting input always goes well. People think
Yes.
their input matters and cared about when you do that. So ask them. So that is all the questions I have today. Hopefully we have helped someone. They got some great information. Is there anything you want to say in closing in regard to this subject, Black History Month?
Yes, I will say, remember, if you don't remember anything else I said, remember it's about an experience and not an activity.
Hmm.
We want to increase cultural competence and cultural proficiency and increase belonging in our organizations. That's the entire reason why we do these things. So think from that lens when your diverse committee starts the plan.
There you go.
That's how I end that.
Thank you, Ama. So, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this edition of the Radical Edge of HR. If you need help with diversity, with Black History Month is actually about to end soon, but that doesn't mean your efforts have to end. So, if you
Juneteenth is coming up.
that's right. Juneteenth is
Mhm.
coming up. We got a few months, but if you need assistance and help, we have a phenomenal leader right here in our diversity program, DICE, as we told you about earlier, and we'd love to help you design a program and all of that good stuff. This is a hot thing, for lack of a better term, and we would love. And we've got a great program and a great leader in that. So as you have just seen and heard, she just teasing you, y'all. There's a whole another program that's designed and catered. Developed for you. We cater it toward your needs. So keep that in mind. Give us a call, shout out, email. HR Knowledge Source. Follow us on all social media. You can go to our website and look us up, email us, hit us up on social media. Please follow us at HRKS. We hope to hear from you soon because at HR Knowledge Source, we know HR. So tune in next time on the Radical Edge where we talk about a lot of radical subjects. Thank you so much for joining me today.
For having me, Tanya. It's always so much fun with you.
Absolutely. We go deep, y'all. So, everyone, have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time on the Radical Edge of HR. Bye, everybody.
Bye.